This is review problem number 5 for assessment number 8. It says, find the other trigonometric functions of theta. They give you tan theta as negative 60 over 11, and they tell you cosecant theta is less than 0. So they want you to find the other trig functions. Let's write them all out. We know we've got sine theta, and its reciprocal identity would be cosecant theta. We've got cosine theta, and its reciprocal identity is secant theta. We've got tangent theta, and its reciprocal is cotangent theta. Well, they tell us tangent theta, and they tell us it's negative 60 over 11. If we look at our reciprocal identities, you can see that tan theta is the reciprocal with cotangent theta, right? Cotangent is 1 over tan, tan is 1 over cotangent, the reciprocals of each other. So if you know tangent, which is negative 60 over 11, you also know cotangent, which is negative 11 over 60. Now, once I have these written out and I have the reciprocal identity written down, I need to find these other 4, and I've got to figure out what quadrant am I currently in. So, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Well, cosecant, you can see, is 1 over sine. So I can write that as 1 over sine theta less than 0. Well, if 1 over sine is less than 0, 1's positive, so sine must be negative. So sine is less than 0 in this problem. Where is sine less than 0 on the unit circle? Well, sine is less than 0 because it's a y value in quadrants 3 and 4. When is tangent negative? Well, we know tangent is sine over cosine. Well, if sine is positive and cosine's positive, tangent's positive. So tangent is greater than 0 in quadrants 1. It's also greater than 0 when sine is negative and cosine's negative, which would be quadrant 3. So tan is positive in 1 and 3. It's negative in 2 and 4. So I can say that tan is less than 0 in 2. Tan is less than 0 in 4. So which quadrant are we in? Well, we're in the one that they intersect. We're in quadrant 4. What does that mean? Quadrant 4, we know that cosine is greater than 0 there. So now we can use this information to draw a triangle in quadrant 4. And we always go off of the x-axis. So we've got theta here. Tangent's negative 60 over 11. Tangent's opposite over adjacent, so that's negative 60 here over 11. Now, 11's positive, right? Because we're in quadrant 4. That's cosine. How do we get this value right here? Well, we can use the Pythagorean Theorem. 11 squared plus negative 60 squared equals, I'll call this x squared. So I'm going to do the square root of that to find x. So I get root 11 squared plus negative 60 squared. Plug all that in the calculator. 11 squared plus, I don't even need to do the 60 because we know 2 negatives make a positive. And then square root that. 61 is the answer. So this is 61. Once I know that the x value, or this hypotenuse is 61, all this other stuff is easy. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Negative 60 over 61. Cosecant, if we look at those identities, cosecant and sine are reciprocals, right? Cosecant's 1 over sine, sine's 1 over cosecant. So that means that sine theta negative 60 over 61 means cosecant is negative 61 over 60. Cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so 11 over 61. And secant is the reciprocal identity of that. You can see that here. Secant 1 over cosine. And so we can say that this is 61 over 11. So our solutions for the trig functions are there.